Hey everybody, GP back here with another presence tapping video. This in response to an email I got. I'm going to read some bits and pieces of it to kind of set the scene before we get started, because you'll get the point, but there's so much here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to try to summarize, to see if I can pull out the essence, or at least what draws my attention most this go around when I read about this. And it's after telling me a little bit about her past, she said, I've reached a point in my journey. I'm no longer interested in superficial interactions. It's about relationships and codependent relationships and things that just aren't satisfying anymore. The first thing I want to say, well, let me read this first. Reached a point in my journey. I'm no longer interested in superficial interactions, relationships that are merely attachments coming from a wound. My nervous system has done the wonderful job of keeping me safe by deploying an anxious attachment style, which has caused and is still causing me an immense amount of suffering, though. Yes. And it's stop for a moment, and we can all do this, and just take a moment to be grateful of the fact that we've woken up to that. For the longest time, not just you, but all of humanity, right, has been in these relationships, doing these things over and over again with no awareness of it whatsoever. Completely unconscious, complete conditioning, and suffering and not know why, or suppressing the suffering so well that you think you're happy. But it's a wonderful thing, a really marvelous and auspicious thing, when we begin to wake up to our own discomfort and suffering and say, this isn't good enough. This is not enough. This does not serve me. Until then, you can't get to the heart of it and actually alleviate the suffering. Because once you know it's there, now how do I undo the suffering? And there's a million methods for doing it. There's a million theories as to how it should work. And mine is just one of many that you happen to have come across that over the years, I think it's very essential. I try to get down to the essence of it. So, since I am no longer interested in entertaining anything other than pure love, someone who is truly meant for me, I've cut all cords with men I've been with who are not good for me, and no longer seek male attention, no dating apps, nothing. A good step, right? Actually, an inevitable step, because once you realize it's unsatisfying, you just can't go back to the well that has bitter water in it anymore. You just can't do it. We do for a while, and we suspect that there's a problem. Keep going back. Well, maybe I just missed something. Maybe I should do different. Maybe I need a different guy. Basically, no, it's not that at all. There's something more essentially wrong here. So she says she's arrived in a place where there's no external attention, male attention. There's no intimate interactions, no dating, nada, nothing. It's just me, which is a beautiful place to be. However, and here's where it starts getting interesting. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the real work begins. However, my nervous system has gone absolutely into panic mode, and then she goes on to describe all the ways that she's doing, which she's craving intimacy, genuine intimacy, but not getting it. She's nobody's validating her, which she got before, even though it came at a real price of self-respect and self-esteem and self-valuing. You got validation. This is what we all do. We sell out for the validation, just like kids do. You have the fear of missing out. Every time she sees a couple that together, assumes that they're a happy couple and they're wonderful and their life is perfect and my life sucks. It basically all boils down to that sense of I need to be valid. How do I find that sense of self-worth and self-validation? So, with that out of the way, I'm going to invite everybody now to start tapping. Close your eyes and breathe. Just feel the tapping, feel the breath. Slow the breath down. For a few moments here, just let go even of everything I just read. This experience of being cut off to the point where we're not getting the kind of validation, acknowledgement, recognition that we humans actually need. Now, the underlying cause of this is that we never got it properly when we were young. If we did, it turns into self-validation, the external validation of mom and dad, turns into the self-validation of the child, gets internalized. So you don't have relationships like that. You can say yes when you mean yes, and no when you mean no. But most of us didn't get that. And so we have these problematic experiences and things in our lives. And, like I said before, something really beautiful rises up in us that recognizes that that isn't the way to go. That's your real, internal, loving voice. That is the voice of self-validation, guiding you back to the place where you are at home in your own skin. Not doing away with, discounting or diminishing attention from others, male or female, but not so attached to it that not having it means suffering. And not so desperate for it that you compromise what you really care about, are real needs in order to get it. And just let that first part of what I was talking about sink in a bit. There's just something inside that didn't properly develop. That's all. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Right? This is just the way your nervous system got trained by people who didn't know how to do it any other way, because they didn't get it themselves. Simple as that. Personal failing or a flaw or a defect, just a training that can be retrained. It's a learning that can be unlearned. So right now, let yourself feel that fear of being invisible, missing out, not being validated, of not getting any attention at all. Maybe even like the panic that Tiffany talks about. The panic. And now notice that that's sitting in there is a very deep, energetic, emotional assumption. That when you take away what little it gets, it won't get any. That assumption is what's driven it to cling to things that aren't serving, that aren't satisfying, that cost more than you get. And it is just an assumption that I won't get what I need unless I do blah, 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 I won't get what I need. Now, when I talk about an assumption, an energetic assumption, I don't mean a thought or a belief. I mean a conviction wired into the nervous system as a driver of and a motivator of action and behavior. So you can't think your way out of it. You can't reason it out. Acknowledge that from the perspective of the wounded part of you that the nervous system is attempting to compensate for, this is the truth. Not a belief, but the truth. This is the fact. And undoubtedly, for a certain period of time, when you were young, it was the truth. It was the experience. The nervous system naturally assumed it would always be the experience, and thus created all of these behaviors to compensate for it. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Kept you alive. So, what we do right now is you can't force it, you can't yell at it, you can't talk to it, can't reason with it. It's not a reasoning device, it's a reactive device. You say, I totally accept that you're in this position. I totally accept it. I understand why, understand what you had to do, and I thank you. Thank you. Yes. It may be that it will always be like this, that I simply am not able to get what I need. I am broken, and you're going to have to compensate for the rest of my natural. But what if it was true then, for sure, but it's not true anymore, at least not as true anymore? What if it is more possible now for me to experience relationships that are quality and real, but also not depend on them for my sense of self-value, worth, and happiness? Maybe it's not possible. Maybe this is the way it has to be. I mean, it was then. But what if it is possible? We assumed that it wasn't possible. A really valid assumption. And so got into this shape that we're in order to compensate for it. But an assumption is not necessarily true, the truth. We've been living as if it's the truth and acting it out, expecting it, been driving behavior. So it would seem that it's true. Right? It could very well seem to be very true to me, to you, my nervous system, right? And not actually be true. We just may be missing what's here because we just assume it isn't there. So I'm just going to invite my whole nervous system to open up for just a little bit, not a lot, huge changes that put us in danger, but just a little, and to see if maybe it's not as true as it was once, and that maybe some of this defense, some of this neediness, and some of this fear can be reduced a bit. Then we don't need so much. Maybe it's actually possible to be safe and in a quality relationship and to feel content and happy and fulfilled even when I'm not. Just as me. What if I can enjoy both? That'd be great. Even if I did have a perfectly wonderful relationship, we're not going to be together all the time. Times will be apart. And it's going to grow and change, and there'll be ups and downs. Maybe I don't have to go up and down with them, but can stay present. Maybe I do. I'm leaving it up to you, my very brilliant nervous system, to put all of this behavior in place in the first place, to check it out for yourself. You decide. Yeah. I'm just saying that there's this other part of me that wants both. It wants that freedom of self-contentment and self-expression, and wants to share it with somebody who reflects it back to me with that level of quality. I want that quality for myself. So thank you for doing this. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for opening up just a little. I can feel that you have. And, thank you for taking care of me for all these years, for keeping me safe, for coming up with these incredible behaviors and strategies. And also for allowing me to recognize that maybe these strategies aren't needed anymore. And maybe we can be safe and free at the same time. Thank you. I love you. All right. Time to take a deep breath. Keep your eyes closed, though, for just another minute so you can feel the body. It's really important in tapping to not just move on to the next thing. If any specific events or issues or things popped up while we were tapping, it's great. You may want to revisit them. You may not need to. Right? They may just be coming up on their way out. You have a image of like some specific event that comes up. Don't assume you have to stop and process that. If you're working with somebody one-on-one who knows how to do this, and I teach people how to do this, they'll be able to guide you more as to whether you need to at this moment or not. Because sometimes those memories and feelings and images come up because the nervous system's ready to let go of them, and they're just passing away. So don't assume anything. And this one last little line here I really love, that she said, "Thank you for teaching me that despite all of the above mentioned, I'm not broken, and it's not a problem." How wonderful. Much love, Tiffany. Yes, you're not broken. All of these things that don't seem to be working in your lives, it can be very confusing. They're simply the result of patterns of behavior that got implemented to keep you safe. They are not the evidence that you're broken, because you're not. All right, another deep breath, and then you can open your eyes. And remember that you're not broken. This is just the way things work. And as you wake up more, that's all the way I can put it. You're awakening to that which isn't true, and you're being woken up, awakened by that in you which knows what is true about you. And that part has never been broken, never been touched, and never been conditioned. It's still intact, and it is bringing you back to yourself through the swamp and chaos of our conditioning, back to the original innocent you, which is already perfect and sublime. So I will see you all in the next video. Until then, be well, be happy, and take care of yourself.